I got to review the Poco X3 NFC back in the day, and I happen to think that it made the right compromises for a cheap smartphone. I found the performance to be the biggest compromise, and this, the Poco X3 Pro, fixes that main issue. So thanks to Damien Wild for providing this smartphone today. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and this is my 2021 review of the Poco X3 Pro. For under £200 new, this thing is pretty packed. We're talking Snapdragon 860, 6 gigs of RAM, a 48 megapixel main camera, and a battery at over 5,000 mAh. But that £180 isn't the only price that you're paying. There are ads in the software, which can annoy some. However, if you spend any time with a modern flagship from Apple or Samsung in the past couple of months, you'll know that there are ads in those OSs too, albeit they are a little bit more seamless. Let's get this smartphone's downfalls out the way first: the hardware, the camera, and the software. Starting with the device's feeling in the hand, if I may, it's very cheap. It's plastic, and from a durability standpoint, it's not half bad, but if you care about how your phone feels in any way, avoid this one. It's got an aluminium frame, I'll give it that, but its shiny plastic on the back just feels gross with any kind of usage. And what might be a little bit more controversial from my standpoint is that I actually quite like the way it looks. I don't mind the way it looks at all. I think the out there branding is nice because it's not just another cookie cutter design, and the large camera bump on the back might be a little bit inconvenient and a little bit overzealous given that only really one camera on it is worth using, but as an overall package I think it looks really cool. And I must say, I very much appreciate the 3.5mm headphone port and the proper capacitive fingerprint reader, which is very good. The software is a bit Marmite, and that's going to be an expression that you'll understand if you're from the UK. Basically, it means some will love it and some will hate it. I'm a fan of MIUI myself, and this is 12.5 atop Android 11. Overall, not my favourite iteration of the Xiaomi skin, as out of the box I don't really like the layout, but it can be customised very heavily in the settings menus and you can for sure tailor it how you want it. It's likely that the X3 Pro will get Android 12, Xiaomi has already claimed that it will, so hopefully it follows through on that promise, and from other Xiaomi smartphones getting 1 to 2 platform upgrades as well, it makes sense. The cameras are some of the most used parts of a smartphone, and you don't want to buy a phone just to realise that its camera images aren't going to look decent in the next 6 months. And straight away, if you're looking for the best quality smartphone camera, don't bother with a Poco phone at all. They aren't great. This one is okay, at least the main camera is, but the other ones are a bit meh. Quality consistency was never going to be amazing, but this is an example of why consistency is important. Don't get me wrong, you're getting better images than a flagship from 5 years ago, but an upgrade to a Pixel 5a or even a used Pixel 4 will be noticeable. But none of what I just talked about, those downfalls, are really what the Poco X3 Pro is about. And I want to talk about why those things are so important and why they work so well on the Poco X3 Pro. The 6.67-inch 1080p 120Hz IPS display is decent. It's no Galaxy Note or even iPhone 12 Pro in its quality, contrast ratio or calibration, but it's a well-rounded thing for the money. Whether you're gaming or watching YouTube, the size and fluidity are fantastic given the low price, and focus on performance, which is what I want to talk about next. Don't get me wrong, it is still a 2-generation old chipset, but it is one of the higher end ones and is much better than what's found in the NFC model. It is more than adequate for day-to-day usage and gaming as well, thanks to that higher end chipset. And the Poco X3 Pro's best feature? Well, in my mind, that's the sizable 5,160 mAh cell with 33 watt fast charging. Battery life on this thing is great. I mean, I am a fairly light to medium user these days and I get 2 days out of this thing. Now, I'm not connecting it to lots of smart devices, smart watches, Bluetooth headphones or anything like that. I use my earphones for about 15 minutes a day and that's about as far as it goes. I don't use much 4G or 5G because at work we have Wi-Fi and at home we have Wi-Fi, but as an overall thing I get, I would say, 2 days of battery life. Now, charging isn't the fastest, 33 watts is fairly quick, but it's a large battery so it's naturally going to take a bit longer than other smartphones. However, I think definitely the X3 Pro's best trait, if not its performance, is its battery. It is a very long-lasting battery life. And that leads us on to the conclusion, I think, because this thing is focused on specific things: the screen, the speed, and the battery life. And those are things that if you're into them, if you're looking for a smartphone with those traits, this is a very good smartphone to go for. £180 brand new, $200 if you go for the slightly bigger model in terms of storage. You're getting an amazing value for money smartphone there. However, if you're into smartphone cameras or you want something that feels a lot nicer, you're going to have to pay a premium for that. This thing actually feels a lot more like the Pocophone F1 than any of the other Poco series. If you remember, that phone had really good specs, really good battery life, and that was about it. It didn't have an amazing screen, had really poor cameras and everything like that, but it costs little to nothing. So in that way, this phone is a lot like that one, except for you get the bonus of having a really good screen on this. I mean, sure, it's an IPS display, so it's not going to look as nice as something like a Samsung, but you know, it costs £180 and not 4 figures, which is a huge difference in pricing. So big thumbs up from me. Recommend the Poco X3 Pro. I almost said NFC. I recommend the Poco X3 Pro. I want to thank Damien for sending it out because I really appreciate him sending these devices out. It's one of the last ones we've got to review for this chunk of phones. Yeah, do check out his social medias and mine in the links in the video description. Thank you all so much for watching. I want to give a massive shout out to my patrons for being continually supportive. Thanks, continually supportive. Check out everything in the video description. I've been Ryan Thomas and I'll catch you later. Peace.